Okay.
Relax. Hi, happy Saturday. Welcome to Black Genius. You're here with Lola Bola and Okendo Lewis-Gayle, BOLG. I'm going to give you a proper introduction of OLG, but I just want to say what's up. I want to, remind you guys that you're glorious, you're powerful. There's nothing you cannot do. Do not let this moment, get the best of you. We are the original people. There's nothing you can't have. So welcome to Okendo Lewis-Gayle. Thank you so much for being on Black Genius with me. Okendo, God, I don't even know where to start. He's the founder of Harambeans. Harambean is one of the most selective networks of African entrepreneurs on the globe. He's best friends with the Pope, the President of Germany, Obama. He hangs out with Stedman. And all he cares about is, liberation and empowerment of entrepreneurs and the change in Africa. So I am a proud Harambean. I'm the proudest Harambean you'll ever meet. I don't know how I got chosen, but I'm grateful to be part of the community. And so I owe so much inspiration and success to this man. So I'm grateful for you, Okendo. Thank you for being on Black Genius.
Oh, my goodness. Thank you. You must know that I actually am incredibly nervous right now for reasons that I can't quite comprehend. Ever since Ms. Shiyambola reached out and said I should do this interview, I've just been agonizing, and I actually have not slept. So I'm going to ask for all of your forgiveness right now, but you're talking to a sleep-deprived person. And so thank you. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this conversation in the last few days, and I really have to start by thanking you for honoring me with this invitation. But really, above all, I feel like we all have to thank you for creating this space for our community to have this very important conversation, to celebrate Blackness in all of its varied forms. Because as I was thinking about it, from Cape Town to Cairo, from London to New York, from Los Angeles to Costa Rica, our people have demonstrated excellence, passion, and grace consistently. And what I think you are doing is you are reminding us of what Maya Angelou said, that in spite and because of all these challenges, still I rise.
They can't hold us
down. and one of the things that as you know, I have I'm instinctively repulsed by the idea that my name would be placed next to genius, because I am not a genius. I do not think of myself as a genius. And I know I will pay a price for this. I know my mother, next time she sees me, she'll say, "Hey, genius, you go wash those dishes." I know it's coming. I know it's coming.
Genius.
You see, this is the
genius.
Ms. Shiyambola, you see, I appreciate that, but you know about this genius thing, it's a double-edged sword, and I get stabbed on both ends. But that's how this works. But the reason, however, I'm here, though, is because Nelson Mandela told us that by letting our light shine, we unconsciously give permission to others to do the same. And it is
millions of people need to hear your story.
And so my hope is that
responsibility.
Well, I thank you so much. I hope that my little prayer here is that my little light and the light of all those who you will have through this program of yours will help us ignite a whole wildfire to improve the state of our world. So thank you for having me. For everyone out there, I am not a genius. Do not call me a genius, please. But let us all support Shiyambola.
Thank you so much. To our viewers, just comment, tell us where you're at, where you're watching from. If you're an entrepreneur, tell us about your business. If you have any questions for Okendo, just drop it in the chat. Hi to Raquel. Hi to Nadine. Who else do we have in the building? Let us know where you're at. I'm going to come back to Okendo now. And, you're in Cape Town right now.
Oh, yes, I am.
Tell us about Cape Town. You said it was like if really and another city, had a baby, it was in Cape Town. Tell us about Cape Town.
Oh yes, but you see, what I think a lot of people don't realize is that on the 6th day, God created Africa. But on the 7th, just before He gave us the Sabbath, He created Cape Town. So you find me on the tip of God's own continent, literally with that bird's eye view of Table Mountain. And so I'm in heaven right now, and I'm very grateful to be here. Have you been here?
I've never been. It's on my list. So I have a new friend in South Africa, so I'm going to make a trip very soon.
Well, we have an annual summit here now, so you want to come down. We missed you this year.
I'll be back next year for that, for sure. So how has this pandemic been treating you? I know, you generally move around a lot, and you've been in Cape Town for quite some time now. You did say you have extended, kind of furloughs in different parts of the world. How has the pandemic affected you and your movement and just the work that you're doing?
Well, I've been truly blessed. I mean, Sister Rona, first of all, hasn't gotten to me yet. I'm not part of, there's some people who are now part of the superhuman race, and they've had the virus and they're immune and they can go out and do their business. I'm not one of those, at least not to the best of my knowledge. But I think, the Alliance Harambe was actually started in the last major financial crisis. And so I think there's something about these moments of crisis that bring out the best in Harambeans. Over the last few weeks, we've been having regular calls and trying to support each other. And it's been truly inspiring to see people continuously attempt to repurpose their assets, lend their skills to their communities. And so I've just been inspired and truly humbled to observe this and help in any way. And as a historian, I also have to remind everyone that as bad as this has actually been part of the human experience. And we all ought to be grateful that this is 2020 and not 1918 or 1348, when we were simply at the mercy of these plagues. We just had no way of tackling them. We reined them in. And I think today we know that in a few months, hopefully we'll have a vaccine and treatments, and that's new to the human experience. And so as bad as this is, remember, it could be worse. I actually have been reminding people that Winston Churchill, at the height of the war, in 1941, as the back against the wall, the Germans were dropping bombs in London. He was introduced, and someone said that these were dark days, and he quipped back promptly, and he said, "These are not dark days. These are great days. These are the greatest days that our country has ever lived, and we ought to thank God to have an opportunity to help shape them." And I think that's what we all can do. We can shape them. I mean, if you're an innovator, all of a sudden, all the ideas and all the things that we thought we knew about the world are out the door. And now it's our turn to help give some new solutions. So I'm excited.
I have to find the source of the quote, but the quote has stuck with me since the beginning of the pandemic, that it's only in times of true crisis that true change is brought about, and what happens in those moments depends on the ideas that are laying around. And so all of, this is a moment for the innovators to shine, dreamers to shine, visionaries like yourself. So let's go back to the beginning of your story. You were raised in Italy. I was listening to you talk to your mom on the phone the other day, and I was like, oh my God, he's Black, he's speaking Italian, this is too much. Tell us about your upbringing and, where you started. Your mom just kind of picked up. She was a famous singer in Italy. She picked up one day and she said, I'm leaving the States and I'm going to live in Italy. Tell us about your upbringing.
Well, thank you. Well, you see, I've kind of circumnavigated the world. I was born in Costa Rica. I grew up in Italy, as you said, and I was educated both in Taiwan and the US. And of course, now I work all over Africa. So I often quip that I'm the reason why they want to build that wall. You see, I'm too complicated. You know, people just want you to pick a country and stick with it. You can't just be hopping around so much. But the truth of it is, though, is that I am simply also a descendant of the 12 million Africans who were shipped to the Americas during the slave trade. And I'm still trying to find out which one of y'all put me on the ship. I wouldn't be surprised if your family profited from my misery.
We'll talk about that on a future episode.
At some point, we have to talk about it.
Great.
I wouldn't put it past you. I mean, but I still don't have evidence of where exactly on the continent I came from. But I'm pretty sure that when the DNA evidence comes in, it will note that my family boarded the ship right here in Cape Town. And so I think of this as a homecoming. I
hope you have some South African roots just to comfort you.
Thank you. I know I do. I love Amarula, so of course I have to have African roots. But in terms of my upbringing, you must know I'm really just a mama's boy. And my mama fancied herself a bit of a shrink. And one of the crazy things is that she always played these Jedi mind tricks on me. And one time I decided I wanted to go to London, and I was in, my late teens, and back then I figured out early in life that sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. And so I literally just picked up and left for London without telling my mother.
How old were you?
I probably was, I was 15 or something, I forget, but I literally just picked up and left. And of course, I got to London and promptly ran out of money. And so I call out my mother and I say, Mama, your only begotten son is in London. He ran out of money, and please spare me a dime. And, thank you. And that's what I thought. I literally just called my mom and said, Mama, I need money. And my mom, she said, well, my beloved son, if you find your way to London on your own, surely you will make your way back home. And you know what my crazy mama did? She said, here's what you do. Pick up a guitar, sit on the sidewalk, and sing like your life depends on it.
Can we bring your mom on the show? I really want to meet her.
She's something else. And literally, I had to figure my way back, and I guess I'm here, so I made it. But that is my mom for you, right? She just has this. I love you, but you're gonna learn some tough lessons, and I think that's part of who I am. And as you mentioned, she's actually a famous singer in Italy. And when I was growing up, she was at the height of her fame, which made me the popular kid at school because everybody wanted to get to mama, and so I had a good time. But I never forget that the kids I liked, I would let my mom sign an autograph and give it to them. But the people I really liked got to come home and had dinner with the star. And I never forget that I made my first steps in the field of entrepreneurship when I literally started selling my mother's autographs. I would literally show up and tell Mama, sign this thing right here, and I would go sell an autograph. I no shit. It's true. I did that.
Did you make a lot of money from that? Was it popular?
Well, it paid for all the chocolate I needed, so I'm good.
This is really interesting because your mom's a famous singer, and you're like the only Black kid in your school. Is that what you said? Were there any other Black kids in school?
Everybody was touching my hair. I was back. That was the reality. I was the only one there. But again, I sort of had this sort of bizarre reality because Mama was the popular one, and so I sort of rather sheltered and pampered. But yes.
Were there other Black people around? Like, what was your community like in Italy?
We created our own family because, we were miles away from everyone else. And so we had to, remake our family. And my mom would So I literally have uncles and cousins and all over Italy. And that's just been the reality that I had and one that I've just enjoyed, which is crazy because I guess even today I still sort of recreate a family that way.
Wow. So you travel from Italy, you come into the States every summer. You said your mom wanted to, kind of get rid of you in the summers, do her thing. And you would go from Ohio, Jersey to LA. I want to hear more about the story of how you wanted to go, you were visiting cousins in LA and they were worried about what color t-shirt you had on. And how different that was from the world that you were living in. You had this borderless sort of mindset, and you come into a place where the color of your t-shirt matters. Talk about that contrast a little bit.
Well, I guess what I'd said about that is I was truly privileged. I mean, in the summer was my mom's business period. So she, would travel across Italy and give concerts. And so it was either I'd go with her or just get rid of me. And she would literally put me on a flight that would take me to New Jersey, out to Ohio, then to LA, then down to Costa Rica, and then back up to Italy to start the fall semester.
Wow.
And so I would literally go in and out of these different realities on a regular basis every year. And I think these were such different worlds. My cousins lived in a part of LA where, they were very much confined to that neighborhood. And, I had friends in Beverly Hills and other parts of the city. And for them, that was rather alien. And at first, that really created a bit of a barrier and animosity because I couldn't understand that. I remember one time there was a music video and this guy had literally gotten paper towel and wrapped it around his head and thought it was cool. And my cousin wanted me to do that. And I thought, you must be out of your mind. Why would I do that? And so there was back and forth. But one of the things I realized in doing that and also in my family in Costa Rica was that I sort of had a responsibility to sort of bridge those gaps because I understood that if that reality is all you knew, then that was your world. And I lived in this, I had the fortune of going in and out of these different realities and seeing the commonalities. And I started trying to figure out how do you develop a language to speak across borders. And I think that's now just who I am. I just very comfortable going in and out of different worlds. And, and my problem now is I don't see the borders. And, I guess Corona reminded us that now we actually have borders. But in my world, those confines are rather artificial because I tend to see what brings us together rather than what sets us apart.
And that's very fundamental for building a global network of African founders. So we're gonna come to September 24th, 2007 in a little bit. But I wanted to talk about this idea of developing a language, bringing people together. You got to college in New Hampshire, and this was an all-white school, you said. Tell us about that college experience, running for president of this all-white school, and treatment you received from your peers.
Well, I think all I would say about my college experience is you have to remember in Italy, I was classically trained. I went to Julius Caesar Lyceum in the shadow of the Colosseum, right? And so I spent 5 years studying Latin and Greek and understanding the exploits of Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great. And I was jam-packed with all of these ideas from Western civilization. And one of the things you notice in the West is how it's very much influenced by the history of ideas. Right? Ideas are, you look at the columns of the Harvard Library or the business school, and you still see an idea that was injected into Rome from Greece, these columns that have a certain look and feeling. And that is literally an idea that has been perpetuated. And so I had all these ideas, and I felt I wanted to do something. I was sick of just reading about what other people doing. And so once someone told me that.
Aww. South African internet. Let me shout out everybody I didn't get to shout out before. Hi, Alex, on the West Coast where it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. So I really appreciate you. Hi, who else do we have? Hi, Faith. Hi, Guido Perez. Am I saying it right? Let me know if I said it right. Anybody else who's watching? Hi, Martine. Anybody else who's watching, drop a comment, tag somebody else who needs to hear about entrepreneurship, who needs to learn about the Harambe network, and who needs to connect with some Black genius. We're going to give Okendo a few minutes to come back on. There's a conspiracy. There's a conspiracy for really bad internet in Africa. Everyone's like, how come the internet is not working across the continent? Lots of people I've been talking to are having that issue. I think he's almost back with us now. I see him popping up. Like I always say, let's meditate in between. In between the breaks. Oh yeah, the coffee submissions. So Faith is reminding me that our virtual festival is coming up later this year, and we are accepting submissions for Northwest. So if you're a filmmaker, if you know a filmmaker, tag them and let them know to submit their film to us. The link's on our website. Okay, I'm telling them about the conspiracy to eliminate internet access in Africa.
Oh no! This I'm pretty sure this is the Harambe marketing team telling me that I'm trying to stop talking too much. I shut up before I ruined our entire alliance. There's a whole bunch of Harambeans out there saying, "Shut up, the chairman."
If you're a Harambe watching this, drop a comment in the chat. Hi, Desiree. Hi, how you doing? Okay, so you were talking about your classical training, something, and you decided to take charge.
Well, yes. I mean, I think this long story short is I was chock full of ideas in my classical education, and I then thought it was important to put those ideas to practice. So much so that my entry interview, that's what I said. I actually said that I wanted to translate ideas into action, and they liked it so much, I actually put it up on the website. I'll never forget. And so I took advantage of my understanding of leadership and put that into practice. And, I think I was senator in the student government in October. And by November, I was running for president. Apparently that's not the way you're supposed to do it there, because, usually the person who was vice president became president, and it was an uncontested election. But I said, well, I didn't get the memo, and I just decided to go for the thing. And, and then I think I was very fortunate. I ran the first time, lost by 24 painful votes. And the second time, I and everyone in my sort of cabinet won, and we had a great time. And I think, I learned the painful lessons of leadership. I was arrogant and made a lot of mistakes, but I remember telling everyone that the worst thing that could happen in my college experience was not that I failed or that I got impeached as president, but that I failed to learn. And so I just literally pushed the limits and kept trying to find out where the limits were, and did break a lot of eggs and upset a lot of people. And forgive me, but I genuinely believe that accelerated. It was sort of an accelerated leadership training that I think is part of what's got me here.
What did you do differently the second time that you ran?
Oh, you see, what ended up happening the first time is that, again, it was usually an uncontested election. So it was only one person on the ballot. I showed up and he said, no, I'm going to run president. And unless you drop out, this is not going to be uncontested. Wow. And then we mounted a campaign. I had my own campaign manager, a wonderful guy from Cape Cod. I was about to say Cape Town, but it's Cape Cod. And we were very proud. And by the time there was a 4-day window to vote. And usually less than 100 people voted. But on a campus of about 2,000, we had 500 people had already voted. And because we actually were so organized, we had a list with everyone who we wanted to vote, and we called them up and they told us that they voted. So we were so confident that we literally left campus to celebrate our victory in Cape Cod 24 hours before the vote closed. And literally, I lost by 24 excruciating votes that I will never forget.
Oh my
and so the only thing different I did the next time is that I think the polls closed at 11 at noon on a Thursday. And at 11:58, I was still in the library trying to get people to vote. And so I just did surrender. But very important lessons I learned there. I mean, gosh, you bring up all the memories.
So it was in college that you met Prince Soko from Zimbabwe?
Yes, I met the man Prince Soko.
I want to talk about the moment of clarity about doing work in Africa. You talked about the Herculean effort it would take to restore places like Zimbabwe to what they originally were in the history of the world. So let's talk a little bit about that transition to understanding that you wanted to do something on the continent.
Oh, well, I think it was gradual. And it was partly because Prince and I met at a party. And we little met because I think we read somewhere in the school newspaper that the school was not going to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King because the plan that they had fallen apart. They were trying to get some speaker. The speaker wanted too much money, and it was too late. And literally, I met this guy at a party, and we read this, and he said, not over our dead bodies. As long as we are here, the memory of Dr. King will be celebrated. And so I did not know the man, but we just started working every single day for 2 months. And suddenly we had an event. And actually Rosa Parks had just passed away. So we somehow managed to get a distant cousin of Rosa, and she agreed to come on campus for free. And then we got the school to actually give us funding and the city to give us a bus, and that really resulted in a masterful event. And what I think I still remember about that was walking into the arena in the stadium where the event was being held and seeing the wonderful floral arrangement and the beautiful picture. And we were so moved and touched that we really had to sit down and just witness this, because we realized then and there that was just an idea in our minds that actually had come to life. And what took that rather banal moment to a whole nother level was when by the end of the event, this gentleman who played in the soccer team and was from Jamaica came up to us in tears and said, "Thank you." And Shimbola, that just really took it to another level, because, that's when you realize that not only do we have the power to translate ideas into action, but these ideas can touch and change the world. And once you get that, it's addicted. You see, you're like, I want some more. If I could do this, let's try that. And so we literally, after that, we shipped computers to a school in Southern Africa, and then we just kept doing things. And then I think that's in that process of doing that, we met other folks who shared Prince's belief that Africa sort of had the talent, had all the resources, the talent to excel, and that if it weren't doing it, it was partly because we just chose not to let it do it. And so we kind of just said, well, if we feel this way, other people must feel this way, and let's try to go and bring them together. And this was 2007, and so Ghana was celebrating 50 years of independence, which was seen as a Pan-African celebration as the first country. And so this heightened sense that we are better than this was permeating the conversation. And we just thought, well, let's just go and get people together. And the rest is history.
So what happened on September 24th, 2007?
Well, I think you had a question around when did you come to realize your purpose? Mm-hmm. And I guess I don't know how many of the audience knows, but I actually wrote a book about Harambeans. It's called Harambeans, Ordinary People Doing Extraordinary Things. And in the book, I actually speak of a moment when, there's the book. In the book, I actually speak.
Get a copy of this book. This will make you cry, and we're gonna get to it. But this tiny little book, I had me crying in the bathtub, like, oh my God, I'm gonna be liberated.
Well, so one of the because to your question about what was the moment or how did you come to your purpose, I actually know the exact date and time, right? And that was September 24th, 11 a.m., 2007. And that was because after I had been there in New Hampshire working and trying to get all these ideas, we somehow, then we of course meet President Obama or then Senator Obama, who tried to upstage me at my own graduation, the poor man. and literally he comes to our graduation and said, if you want to fulfill your true potential, you must hitch your wagon to something larger than yourself. And so this is the music in the background, right? Mr. Yes, We Can is in the air, who comes to my commencement after we had done all kinds of craziness. And the final act is Mr. Obama himself comes and says, hitch your wagon to something larger than yourself. And so he said, well, let's try. And so we really try to see if we could bring people together. And we spent all summer after that speech in May trying to figure out, get people to apply to become Harambeans and join this organization, which was rather amorphous at the time. Maybe we'll do a trip to Africa and we'll all try to figure out how to jumpstart the economy. And we spent all summer and not a single person had applied. And so on September 23rd, 2007, we go to Cambridge, which we're told had one of the highest concentrations of students anywhere in the world. And we said, if we can't find Harambeans there, they are nowhere to be found. And so this passage from the book actually speaks to this very moment, right? So equipped with an extensive application, we crisscrossed the United States, urging young African students to join our amorphous effort. But on September 23rd, 2007, it dawned on us just how fragile was our nascent endeavor. As I tendered a lengthy paper application to a passing student on the campus of MIT, he respectfully accepted it, and without the slightest semblance of interest, he simply walked away. In that instant, I realized that paper, which embodied our bold dream, was of little value to the world. Nothing but a dream on a piece of paper. That's all we had. At the end of that dreadful day, in spite of our summer-long efforts, not a single person had filled out an application. Battered and bruised, we licked our wounds in a vain attempt for consolation. It was a disheartening blow that brought us to the brink of surrender. In the depths of our inconsolable despair, we reminded ourselves of the stark needs of the people we were ultimately trying to serve. Parents who couldn't afford adequate educational opportunities for their children. Children who lost their parents to preventable diseases, enterprising young Africans with limited opportunities, individuals who would consider our bad day in America a true blessing. So, like a fish out of water, in a hopeless spasm for oxygen, we decided to try again the next day. As fate would have it, our fortunes turned on September 24, 2007. From 9 a.m. that morning until 2 a.m. of the following day, I spoke to groups of students who seemed suddenly infected with a contagious form of Harambe fever. It was a which lives on in the of our science with a mic line. Remember the fourth number.
It cut out. It cut out a little bit. I think you ended on the most poetic part. Remember the 24th of September. Is that where you landed? I want to talk about the book a little bit while until OLG comes back. It's a really kind of an intimate portrait of a few people who chose to go back to the continent and start ventures, right? And so for someone like me who, I've been about entrepreneurship as long as I can remember, and my family was not crazy about it. So reading Kwame Williams' story and how he left his opportunity to work at NASA to go back and help farmers in Ghana, and how his parents were like devastated. There's so many stories like this, but he wasn't going to give up on the people who he had connected with in Ghana. He wasn't going to go back and focus on, building technology to go to the moon when he could make sure that people from his country ate, OLG is back.
Hey.
I was just telling them about Kwame Williams.
But,
I think it cut you off when you were saying how when you were landing on, remember the 24th of September.
Oh, good, because that was all I needed to hear. That was it. So that was the last thing you heard, right?
Well, I mean, even leading up to that, it cut out a little bit. So you were telling the story of, how you guys went back and did it again the next day. And that's where it started to cut out. So I want you to revisit that.
Yeah, the long and short of it is that when that student at MIT dismissed our application, he literally just grabbed it and said,
"Oh no!" So the student at MIT, I think he might have thrown the application away or something, if I remember the story correctly. But imagine being out there, putting yourself out there and trying to sell this idea, and nobody's fighting for months. So I'm super inspired by the fact that they just kept going back out there, and now Harambe exists. You're back with us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, that's a start.
Yeah, well, I mean, to make a long story short, the gist of that was that when we had the student at MIT who simply didn't care, he said he literally just took the application to get rid of us. It was then that we realized that we were the only people who cared enough for this idea. And that if the world was ever going to care, we had to give them a reason to care. And ever since that day, I have been fighting for this idea. And if today, 13 years later, there is still a Harambeans, it's because, again, I've chosen not to give up on it. And I am absolutely determined to ensure that my dying breath, I'll keep fighting for it, which is why I feel sorry for all our detractors, because I ain't going nowhere. These Harambeans, Corona doesn't,
Oh my goodness. All right, so I'm going to shout out some of you guys in the comments. Hey, Uzo. Uzo said she got her copy of Harambeans from Amazon. Thank you, Faith, for dropping the link. Hi, Mama. My mom is watching. Good to have you watching. Hi, Jenny. Jenny Cedeno. Did I say it right? Cecilia Gale. Stephen Obiajulu. No, Obiajulu. He's asking about Kwame's product. So Stephen put a comment, a link to Moringa Connect, Kwame Williams' company. This is the story I was talking about just a little while ago. So there were a couple of questions that that you guys dropped in the chat that I want to get back to. The role of humility. I think Raquel asked this question, the role of humility in listening, in leadership. And then we have another question. I want to know who it's from, though. Cecilia. The world is going through a very difficult time. What do you advise? Once we have Okendo back on the line, I'll give him answer these questions. I'll give you a couple of Noir Labs updates in the meantime. Noir Labs is growing, and we're going to probably do an episode next week. We'll give you guys a bit more of an update. But I mentioned my co-founder last week, and Jack and Alexis, and all the new people who've joined our team. And I want to make sure that we continue to keep you guys, connected with what we're doing. So as you know, Noir Press is our media platform, and this is where we are curating news from across the diaspora. And very soon we'll have a Noir Press blog up where we're updating you on people like Okendo and Alex and Jen, all the people we've had on the podcast. Okendo's back with us. Let's see how it goes this time. How's it going?
I can hear you, can't not see you.
Aww.
Can you see me?
I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay, well, let's count our blessings and keep going.
Are you tethered on your phone?
I've just switched over, yeah, so hopefully this will be better.
All right, so the MIT student, he drops the, what did he do? Did he throw the application away?
No, he just took it to get rid of us, right? Because I think he figured that unless we were so persistent that unless we took it, we would let him go. So he said, okay, I'll take it, but he probably just chucked it as soon as he turned the corner.
All right, so back to Noir Labs updates. So we're going to have a virtual film festival in a couple of months. We're firming up the date, but you'll be able to come online and watch some of our films. We'll have a watch party. We're going to have a watch party for Yvonne Orji's HBO special in a few days, in a few weeks. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. Okendo's back again.
Sorry.
Listen, we're going to push it through. We're Harambeans.
Here.
We're here.
Remember, where there's a will, there's a way. But where there's no will, there's a Harambean willing to make a way. So either way, we'll make it happen.
So we're going to try to wrap up the MIT story because I want to get back into some of your tactics for success.
Yeah, no, I think all I was saying is that that's the moment when we realized that we were the only ones who had to care about the idea. And if the world was ever going to care about it, we have to give the world a reason to. Mm-hmm. And if there is a Harambeans today, it's because we have simply refused to give up on this idea. And I genuinely believe that there's so many other ideas out there that had their September 23rd when then it could have all died. Okay. But if we persevere, you will have a September 24th, right? Goodness. Where it can rise from the dead. and I think that's what that story reminds us, right? That there are in this world desperately needs us to keep fighting for these ideas.
You just took me back to my September 23rd with my nomination at NYU, where I just wanted to just end it all.
No.
Okay, so you built Harambeans from an idea into a global network of there's 300 of us now.
There's 300 little kids.
300 little Harambeans. We talked about Kwame. You know, I know there's so many. If I ask you for examples of, we always talk about Andela and Oluwa Aboyeji. I know I'm butchering his name as a Yoruba person. Flutterwave, all of these ventures that are just like exploding on the continent, and people who, in spite of COVID, in spite of lockdown, are thriving. I want you to talk a little bit about the Harambe spirit, about all the opportunities that have come across your path, and the opportunity to be able to create for African entrepreneurs, just from creating this this dream on a piece of paper and put into existence. Am I losing you again? The Harambe spirit does not give up. He's frozen, but I know he's going to come back to us soon. Back to Noir Labs update. Yeah, so we're going to have a virtual film festival before the end of the year. Make sure you join our mailing list. If you haven't liked our page already, like our page. If you go to noirpress.org, you can join our mailing list so you can get the newsletters with the dopest films and content to watch. Tuesday at noon, we're going live with Evan Park with our new podcast, Unprecedented. And then next Saturday, another episode of Black Genius. Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh.
And also Wednesday will be our meditation. Can you hear me? I see you.
I'm so sorry.
Listen, these stories have to be told, so we're gonna do what we gotta do.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're cutting in and out. That's South African Wi-Fi.
Let me. Yeah, you. And well, you see this. I guess these Capetonians don't like to up heaven.
The Capetonians don't like what? Feedback on their finger is a question. Thank you guys for holding on with us. Thanks for holding tight. Okay, so drop in the chat any events or people that you like to see us, talk to on Black Genius. We'd love for you guys to nominate Black Geniuses. And let's definitely put some juju on the internet. There's a whole lot of folks I've been talking to on the continent that are struggling with their internet connection. So let's put some juju on that. And he's back again.
Yes, we can. 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 Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Right. Well, so far, so good. Let's try it again.
Keep going. We're gonna keep going.
You see, people in Cape Town don't work on Saturdays, so the Wi-Fi is like, what are we doing? There's no Zooming going on here. It's Cape Town.
Don't worry, we're gonna upgrade. Next time we have you on, we're gonna set you up with with a bypass.
All right, excuse-moi, you see, Madam Shiyambola. Thank you. Sorry about that, folks.
We gotta build our own.
But it's probably a good thing because I don't have much to say. So
all right,
it really works in our favor.
So we were talking about, I want you to talk about some of your proudest moments with Harambe, some of the growth that the organization has seen over the last, 13 years. But even more recently, there's been some explosive growth and partnership.
Yeah, I think what I would say is throughout our journey, we have been trying to answer a series of questions. The first question was, would people like yourself who
Oh, I don't have yes we can. Uzo said yes we can. Yes, thank y'all for holding on. Thank y'all for holding on. We're gonna get to the finish line. We gotta get his answers. I'm gonna give you some of the insights that Okendo has shared with me. I do my gratitude journal. Okendo's the one who inspired me to do my my daily gratitude, and he does this this every year, every beginning of every year, he spends 5 days in silence in Italy or near the Vatican. So I want him to share with you guys some of his sort of strategies for success, his secret sauce. So hold on with us. We're gonna get through it. Drop any questions in the chat that you have for Okendo. I don't see a lot of folks dropping. If you're, if you have a venture, if you are an entrepreneur, drop a link to your website so we can, learn about what you do. And go and join our mailing list on northpress.org. Seems to be back in the building. Okay.
At least the good thing about this is people get to actually look at you. That just beautiful smile and face. So I think this is fine. Everybody can they don't need me. I'm not necessary in this conversation. Sorry, folks.
I wanna hurry up and get to your secret sauce.
Oh, so, okay, good.
But I want to spend like a minute just touching on some of the ventures, some of the growth that you've seen with Harambeans and some of your proud moments.
I was trying to say earlier, and I hope our friends at the Wi-Fi company let us do this. From the start of our journey, we have been trying to answer a series of questions. The first question was whether people like you, individuals who've been blessed with incredible educational opportunities, in your case, at places like Yale and Cambridge, would you be willing to go back to the continent and take risk? And what's beautiful about this is, again, today we've got over 300 Harambeans, and every year we now have over 3,000 applications. And so to those who said that couldn't be done, well, I show you all 3,000 applicants. And then the question was, well, even if you were willing to go back and take risks, could you actually overcome the infrastructural perennial challenges, limited Wi-Fi, the energy, the corruption? And now we have Harambeans leading ventures across the length and breadth of the continent, right? Like companies like, as you mentioned, Moringa Connect, right? To companies here in South Africa like Yoco and yours. And so we've proven that, yes, you can overcome those challenges and still be able to deliver value. But then the ultimate and perennial question was, well, okay, but will they ever be able to scale? Will you ever be able to take these things from cute to relevant? And then that's when the Zuck showed up and invested a whole bunch of billions in a Harambean through Andela, and reminded all of us that, yes, we can, right? And I think that's what's the beauty of this journey, that it continues to evolve and it continues to remind us of as I said earlier, right, of the excellence, the passion, and determination of our community. And the beauty of this, as you know, and those of us who are in this magical alliance, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Because while we celebrate these companies, you know that the future belongs to the brave, and there's a whole lot more coming. And I think what you are doing and so many other Harambeans are doing is inspiring a whole army. And so I think you're going to see a lot more of this.
Wow. Tell us about your secret sauce. You talked about your grandmother and, how she was, a Bible. I can't remember the phrase you used, how Christian she was. What's your secret sauce, and what are the things that you do that keep you, just winning in spite of your struggle?
Well, I guess there are sort of two things about that. I actually do have a series of habits that I like to remind. I always start to remind myself that inspiration gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. And so I am zealous about my morning routines. I literally write out my goals for the quarter, the year, and then have my friend Greg that checks in every 2 weeks to find out how we're actually doing. And so there's literally a series of habits that, as you mentioned, I also keep a gratitude journal that allows me to always be looking for small things to be grateful for, even in seemingly difficult days. And again, what guides that is that while inspiration will get you going, it's only discipline that will keep you growing. And I try to really be consistent with that. And having an accountability partner is very helpful. I also combine this with my annual silent retreat, where it's a beautiful thing. I start these lovely people at the Vatican let me just go and hang out at the Pope's summer residence, and it's just a silent retreat. Literally you're hanging out with priests, and there's reflections, Bible-based reflections, and meals where everyone's silent, and that's it's something I truly treasure and allows me to do this. But one, as I think about my spiritual journey, and I guess maybe the secret sauce, I have to think about my grandmother, because you see, my grandmother is a Bible banging Baptist who has been praying since the cotton picking days in America. She is the kind of person that gets in a car and goes to Walmart and says, "Thank you, God, for getting me here." I mean, she has a daily conversation with the Lord.
Okay.
And one of her firm convictions is that long before our parents were born, long before we were even conceived, God had a plan for us. And to fulfill and realize that plan, we must do our best, and God will do the rest. That's the deal. And so I wake up every morning knowing that there's something that I must do. But then I live tranquil in the knowledge that there is an omnipotent, omniscient God who will move mountains, part the oceans, walk on water to deliver his end of the bargain. And so you see, there is a certain belief in me that as so long as we do our best and have faith, God will deliver. And that always leads me to pray for my detractors, because I always like to tell people, if you think you can stop us, just when you think you can stop us, I will start humming the battle hymn of the Republic. Do you know the words of the battle hymn of the Republic? It's a beautiful thing. It literally says, "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord."
Okay.
He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored.
Okay.
He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. The truth is marching on. And so I always like to say, if I do my best, We have an army that has defeated the British Empire and all of the other ones. And they'll descend on you. So I just find that incredibly reassuring, right? Knowing that there's a plan. And that if we listen to ourselves and are humble to hear others and continue to evolve, well, the good Lord will make a way. And I really think is my secret, because in the middle of all of this uncertainty, if you just focus on what you must focus and excel at it, I want to believe that, well, que sera, sera.
I feel like you answered. There were a couple of questions in the chat that I feel like you just kind of answered. I want to highlight a couple of people who asked the question. So Cecilia Gale, that's not your mom, is it?
That is my mama. You be careful with that woman. Mama, be nice. Mama, be nice.
Because the world is going through a very difficult time, what do you advise? And it seems like you kind of answered that, but I'm curious if you would add anything.
I think what I advise is perspective. We have to remember, this is not the first pandemic, and it won't be the last. But we actually have tools to deal with this. There was a time when we were simply at the mercy of these things, and there was nothing we could do. All we could do was pray, and that didn't work. And so when you think about it that way, you realize that actually this is not as bad as it seems. And what this moment can do for all of us is bring great clarity. You see, that's, I think, what 2020 will be known for: clarity. You know, it's given us clarity on what are the issues that we must fight for, right? I mean, if you're in America right now, you are reminded that what the fight is, and who are the good guys, and who are the people we need to pray for. So this clarity is what I think is going to enable us to look back on this moment as a moment of true transformation for the world. Because remember, it was Dr. Martin Luther King who said, it's only when it is dark enough that you can see the stars. And fortunately, I actually believe it will get darker before we see the light, but it soon will see the light. And I think that moment of clarity is why this moment is for those of us who want and believe that we are better than this, and we must rise to this challenge. And in America, you're seeing it happen almost on a daily basis. And I know some people don't like Florida 5th, but I genuinely think that we will all be looking back on this and say, thank you, 45th, because he forces you to choose. He forces you to say, do you really believe that all these are rapists? Do you really believe that all these countries are shithole countries? And, you know, and if you don't, you must take a stance. And remember, Obama, I mean, the second coming of the Messiah, Mr. Messiah Obama, he tried to tell us, but nobody listened. But 45th gets up there and says things so preposterous that you have to say, no, this is where I get off the elevator. This is wrong, and I must do something about it. And so I genuinely think that this is a great 2020 will be the year of clarity and vision, and it will give us all purpose and get out to work. Remember, this is the history of our world. This is the history of America. It started out of a revolution, for crying out loud. And so these are the moments that, you know, give us a reason to fight for. And so I'm a Pollyanna optimist who calls rain liquid sunshine. So maybe I'm not the best person, but I still think we're going to be fine.
There's another question about humility. When you were talking about your college days, Raquel asked what you think the role of humility and listening plays in leadership.
It's fundamental because, you see, we start with a lot more questions than we have answers. And the only way you get to those answers is by listening to the clues in the process. As you know, if you are creating a product for customers, you are going to try things. And you might say, hey, I think this is the best channel, but you'll try that and you'll see that some place it works and some place it doesn't work. But then if you really listen closely, you'll discover the secrets to ensuring that the product is tailor-made for the needs of your customer. And so listening is critical. So, I mean, unfortunately, if you're deaf on this, it's not going to work because you listen to what you want to listen, but that's not what the customers need. That's not what the world needs. And I genuinely think that this is just a result of deep intentional listening. And that's something we must continue, all of us, to exercise and develop over time. Unfortunately, it's not like you just read a book and you are a perfect listener. It's gradual and daily battle. And, I and all of us have some work to do there.
My last question, I have, I could listen to you go for hours. I have so many questions, but
I haven't slept all evening, please.
We're going to talk very soon, but my last question for you, in this moment of protest and, change, what does Black liberation look like for you? And if you have a blank check.
And do I?
Deliver. And if you have a blank check, if, the Zuck hands you a blank check, what do you?
Can someone please tag the Zach so he hear that? Zach, please give us the blank check.
Everybody wants to fund Black liberation movements right now. This is a good one for him to fund.
What does Black liberation mean to me? To me, it should mean to all of us that through you, all things are possible. That's what, when people actually accept that belief, that through you, all things are possible, then we will be truly liberated. Because remember, it was Mandela who told us that our greatest fear is realizing that we are powerful beyond measure. And once you embrace that, then you are free as a bird. And if I had a blank check, and Lord, I hope they don't ever give me a blank check because these people will come to regret it. But if they give me a blank check, I would turn Harambe into the Disneyland for African innovators, period. It should be that kind of place where, your mama might think you're crazy, your local banks may never fund you. But if you get to this Harambe land, all dreams are possible. Oh yeah. So if you give me a blank check, and please tag the Zach so he can maybe consider, I think I really would turn Harambe into a Disneyland. Tag the Zach, tag Bill Gates, tag all of them.
We didn't even get to the Bloomberg article. I'm gonna drop
the Bloomberg article.
So Harambe has, in the middle of a global pandemic and global crisis, raised $1 million to fund Harambe Ventures. Talk a little bit about that before we wrap up.
I genuinely believe that, as I said, the most important thing to get lost in this moment is perspective. People start making a whole hurricane out of a teacup. And yes, we got problems, but the fundamentals have not changed. Innovators are critical to the success, not just of Africa, but dare I say, the world. And in this moment, we cannot allow ourselves to be distracted and fail to support the individuals that are going to design the future that we want. And so what this fund is attempting to do is remind us that there are still strong teams with great ideas that need the capital they need to thrive. Not just survive, but thrive. Yeah. And so what my hope is that every Harambean who gets that money, and I'm trying to get it to as many people as they let me, will remind the world, yes, we can. And that's what this is about. And I'm so glad the people at Bloomberg, thank you, Bloomberg, if you're listening. I love Bloomberg. I thought you should have been president. I really think that, I hope that everyone who hears this knows that let's not get distracted. We need innovators, and they're out there, and this fund seeks to sort of identify them, celebrate them, make sure that other investors across the continent, around the world, just open up the wallets and say, give all this Harambeans money.
Yeah, we see all the $1 million investments into Harambe Ventures. Okay.
Here.
Thank you so much, Okendo. This has been, of course, a joyous Saturday for me. Thank you for joining me in this conversation and sharing your story. I know you don't like to talk about yourself. I know it's hard for you.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you who's been watching. Thank you for sticking through with us through all the Wi-Fi issues. We love you. We appreciate you. Let us know in the comments, what other ways we'd like to connect. We'd love to have some sort of town hall, talk about what's going on in the world right now. How can we support you as founders? Send us your press releases. Send us your stories to editor@noirpress.org. Join our mailing list and stay connected. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and all the platforms. Eat your greens. Take your vitamin C. I hope you take your vitamins, Okendo. Take care of yourself. We love you.
May I say one more thing? Can I say one more thing? Will you let me?
Go ahead.
I do want to come back to say thank you to you, because this conversation is very important. And for the same reason that I actually wrote that little book that you have over there, the Harambeans book. Because you see, as I wrote in the introduction, I don't know if you saw this, but I said, Chinua Achebe reminded us that until the lions have their own historian, tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. And so if we want to remind ourselves of the greatness of this community, what you're doing is a sine qua non condition. And so I really want to thank you. And again, I think it was a mistake to have me as a genius on your program. And I'm sorry for all the audiences that thought they were looking for a genius. Ain't no one here, but I really want to thank you and thank everyone. And I hope this was helpful and may this light turn into a wildfire. Amen. God bless you, everybody. Amen. Enjoy your Saturday.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Konnichiwa. No.